Welcome to Common Sense, where we aim to educate and empower Black entrepreneurs who are dedicated to growing their businesses and personal finances. I'm your host, Ayo Idowu, and today I'm very excited to have a special guest. I'm with the Financial Navigator, Khadia Michel, and Khadia will be talking about money moves with budgeting and cash flow. Khadia, welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
So, obviously I gave you a quick bio, Khadia, but I would love for you to give the audience a good look and depiction of what it is that you do.
Sure. So as far as what I do just on a day-to-day basis, I am a wealth manager. So I help my clients navigate through their finances. So whether that's a person just coming, looking to retire eventually, has some sort of plan, whether it be budgeting, cash flow, or something with their 401k, or just those other ideas, or also business planners. So anyone that is an entrepreneur looking to get started, or a lot of my clients are been in the business for forever and just maybe need a better structure or need to figure out what's the best path to go along the way. So whether it's individual, whether it's couples, whatever the scenario is, just really navigating people through their finance. That's where the whole name came from, because I felt like it's a lot clearer as far as just saying, oh, I'm a financial advisor.
Right.
What do you do?
Right.
What does that mean? So helping people from everything from their 401k to their day-to-day savings, budgeting. What are you doing with your money? What's your mindset around money? And I think that has come to be the most important. Find myself to be a financial psychologist to some extent. I feel like a lot of times it's really our relationship with money and understanding that money is a tool rather than thinking that money is just this thing to get me by day to day, right? But understanding that this is something that can catapult and can create wealth for generations to come. So I think that's the biggest, not issue, but that's the biggest situation amongst ourselves when it comes to money. We just think of it as a right now, rather than understanding that, hey, this is a tool that can take me on forever if I use it the right way.
So it sounds like you do a lot of things for your clients, not just one thing. Because I feel like when a lot of people think financial advisor, they think stockbroker, right? They think like Wolf of Wall Street. They think of what was his name? Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness, where you just like calling down and buying one stock let hit, or the Wall Street movie with Charlie
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people just really have no idea what you do. And I think I was talking to one of the veterans in the business, and I was asking him, and he's like, Khadia, honestly, I don't even know what the market did today. He's like, and that's because and that doesn't mean I'm a good or bad advisor. I'm just letting you understand my job is not about babysitting the market. My job is to have a good relationship with my clients and make sure that they're achieving their goals. And each goal for each person is going to be totally different. So his one of the things he explained is like, I'm like a pilot. So I'm taking you from one place to another place, but I can't control the weather. I can't promise that there's not going to be bumps along the way. Can't promise that there's not going to be turbulence. And that's the same thing. I'm taking you from your one spot to where it is that you want to go. Make sure that those goals are achieved. But I can't promise how the market's going to look, from one day to another. But what I can promise you is that we're going to put things in place. We're going to prepare for those bumps, and we're going to make sure that along the way we get you safely to your destination.
I think the Navigator makes sense. I envision you kind of like a, when you in high school and you taking the college tour, right? And you got like the orientation leader walking backwards and just kind of lead. That's kind of what you do with your clients, right?
Exactly.
You're just kind of walking backwards and leading them through something you've been through a million times.
Exactly. Correct? Showing them the way, showing them what makes sense, showing them using other people's ideas and different stories as examples, to help them maybe miss some sort of pitfall or something that they may not have seen. A lot of times when it comes to just the basic education, a lot of us just never received it. We just never knew, went through high school, went through middle school, went through all these grades and just never knew the basics about either saving or investing or just insurance and just the simple things that to other people is simple, but for us it's complex.
And I think about that a lot, and you see it on social media. It is kind of sad how in schools they don't teach people how to file, like the essential things, file taxes. Like I didn't even learn how to change a tire in school, right? But file taxes or, look up your credit score or understand like simple basic financial stuff. Like 401ks is Spanish to a lot of people.
And you hit it on the head as far as, just looking on the internet. That's something that I think a lot of people find themselves doing to find. So I got so many clients that come out with the, YouTube University thinking that they just know better than me or, different things like that. So you have so many people teaching we were having a conversation even earlier today where all these people making millions of dollars but have no real accreditation or no real certification to say that they're even approved to teach these things to people, which I mean, I can understand, right? Some people are just going off experience. They're just teaching what they've learned or the things that they've been through.
Buy my course.
But at the same time, it's like, if you're going to work with somebody who you know they've put in the time for the education as well. And that's why even for me, the certification, like CFP, that was such a big deal for me as I was getting started, because I'm like, okay, I need to be certified, because I don't even feel right taking your money without being fully sure that I know what's going on. And I'm not saying, because of course, even to get the CFP, you have to have a certain level of experience and things like that. But I do think that those type of things are really important when it comes to actually giving your money to someone. Just making sure that they have that experience. They've been in those different rooms and had those different conversations. And it's not always through a specific certificate, right? Sometimes it is that experience that gives that person all that knowledge. But just knowing that they're not just coming off of only their story, but they're giving you more than that. And I think that's why it's so important, especially nowadays. Invest in yourself.
I think that's funny when you talk about YouTube University, because I feel like everybody is. I'm guilty of it too, right? I bought a house like 3 years ago, and then when I tell you I turned into Bob the Builder because of YouTube. But I always just imagine people, when folks try to do our jobs and think they can do it better because they read an article, right? That's kind of like, people thinking that they can perform open heart surgery because they ain't missed an episode of Grey's Anatomy. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not quite the same
the
thing. Like, good job, right?
I'm
glad the heart is where it should be, but like now you need to...
You need to couple that with something else. And I think you hit it on the head, right? So it doesn't mean that, I'm not saying you can't do simple budgeting by yourself. A million times. Of course you can.
For sure.
But even that in itself, right? People are always quick to say, oh, have a budget, start a budget. But it's not even just about starting the budget, because that's just an idea of what you think you're going to spend. Are you actually checking on the budget? Are you going back to the budget? Are you making sure that what you said you were going to spend on is actually being spent on? So even for me, I think it's a great idea to start a budget, because that's just the idea. But I think it's so much more important to go back to it. It's so much more important to say, hey, does my credit and my credit card statement or my bank statement actually match the budget that I put in place? Or am I just telling myself, oh yeah, I'm only paying $200 for food just to write it down because I think that that's what I should be doing. But in reality, I just spent $200 on Uber Eats, and I really spent a whole nother $400 on actually buying groceries, and groceries are in the house, but I'm still going out. So I think it's so much more about the behavior. It's so much more about the mindset behind it, figuring out what's your why, right? So a lot of business owners, they want to start a business, which is great. It's wonderful. But at the end of the day, what's the why? So that when the going gets tough and it's difficult, you're able to still stand up.
We had an episode this season talking about purpose, and it hit that on the head. I'm super excited about that, but I'm glad it came back and brought it, because I feel like when people hear things a couple times, it's going to be important.
Exactly. And I think that why needs to be so strong even when it comes to budgeting, right? Because I need to know that I'm budgeting so that I can go on my vacation. I need to know that I'm budgeting so I can buy whatever it is I really like. I think people hear budgeting and they get scared, like, oh, now I got to start eating salads and ramen noodles all day because I'm budgeting. That's not what budgeting is. Budgeting means that you're just planning in advance for those things that you want, right? I like nice things, but I have a budget for that. I make sure that that's a part of that budget. I'm not going to just go crazy because I like nice things. I make sure that it's inside of my budget. So it doesn't mean budgeting can be fun. It can be, okay.
I ain't never had fun budgeting, by the way.
It can be fun. And the reason why I say that, so we have to change our mindset, right? In our mind, sometimes we feel like, oh, I need to take a trip. Okay, that trip, sometimes it could be that big trip if you have in your budget, right? But maybe you didn't prepare a budget for a big trip. But you still have enough to go on a day trip. You still have enough to go visit family somewhere, or go visit a place that you already kind of know, that you know you can get a good Airbnb, or just different things like that, where our concept and our thought around the way we spend the money, it should still be a little bit different. And also understanding, I don't necessarily have to go far away to get this. Or if I do say, oh, I have to do on this certain trip, you can join some of these little platforms like a Google Flights and follow that destination and see, hey, when is it the cheapest time to go? And when is this? Instead of just saying, oh, no, I'm going with everybody. This is the time I'm going. We have to be a little bit more flexible just to make it an enjoyable thing. Otherwise, there's no fun in that, because I'm not going to I never tell my clients that they should eat ramen noodles for the next 30 days because we're on a budget. I tell them, hey, we're on a budget. Girl, I know you like that bag. I know you like that such and such, or I know you want to take your kids to such and such. I know you want to do this. let's put it inside the budget.
Is that where that psychology you talked about comes into play?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Understanding that cash is king. Understanding that, yes, it's not about what you are able to get paid, but it's about what are you really taking home.
It sounds like, so people call you because they want you to tell them no, like, girl, I'm in Fendi right now. Like,
I've had
tell me something I need to hear, because
when I tell you,
I will buy both of these shoes.
When I tell you, I literally just had a new client. I'm talking about, she's making great money, and she was like, "Well, Khadia, the holidays are coming up. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is my most difficult time." And I'm like, "I know that. I know that. We already worked on that."
I
so
feel
at
like
the end
when
of the
a client
day,
says, "I'm not gonna lie to you,"
yeah, you already know that
that's
exactly what's about to happen. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but we already budgeted for that.
Yeah.
So remember that $5K. Remember that whatever we already put to the side. That's your parameters. So I know that you want to do those other things, but let's try to stay within those parameters, because let's remember we're saving this money because you, after retirement, want to start this other business. You, after retirement, now if there's no why, it's so easy for everything to hit the fan, right? Because it's like, well, I have this money right now. I need to spend this right now. And you don't see nothing else in the future. So YOLO, I'm living for right now. I don't know if I'm gonna live till tomorrow, right? So I gotta just go ahead and spend it. But in reality, if you're looking and you're thinking about, nah, I need to put this to the side because I already have this other dream. I already have this other aspiration. My daughter's trying to go to school, or that's one of my goals, or whatever it might be. Then you have to be able to be strong enough to say that my why is stronger than this want. And if that why is not stronger than that want,
it's over. It's a wrap.
What budget? Where? Why are we even doing it? Don't even write it on a paper, please.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time and don't waste mine. So the biggest thing there is it's also creating that emergency fund. Do you have...
I'm going to pause you because that's one of my questions.
Oh, okay. So sorry.
We'll pause there, all right? Let me ask you a question about yourself. Can you tell us your story, how you got to this point? I think you did a really thorough job of explaining kind of parts of what you do, right? And then obviously went on the topic that we'll be discussing today.
Yes.
But tell us kind of how you got to this point. Like, what's your story? How did Khadia Michel turn into the Financial Navigator?
Yes.
What's your villain origin story from
I'm like, once upon a time. No, I'm just but in reality, money is always around us, right? At the end of the day, money's what makes the world go round. Whether we like it, whether we like it or don't like it. But I was raised in a household with very different money mindsets, right? My dad was a big spender. You know, he will spend it all, like, and that's just his mindset. But because of that, I feel like my mom kind of gained a mindset of like saving. Big penny pitcher. Like, that's her thing. She will save $1 million and be sitting there eating the ramen noodles. Like, that's
I'm going to pause you right there. So do you feel like when you work with couples, when they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, is that usually good to have that balance?
So it is not that it's good or it's bad. What has to be there inside the couple is understanding whatever those whys are and that matching. So the why to save, right? Okay. So like if, let's say, for example, we're on two different spectrums, and I'll use myself as an example because my husband is very different spender than myself. However, our why is like our daughter, for example. So because that why is so strong, then I know that even though I normally would be a spender, I normally would spend this or do this, that goal that we already have for saving for her, that's already is stronger than that. So for me, I'm just saving first. Okay, let me just put this aside. Then I'm putting to my other savings of whatever I already know I want to spend. Right. So it's not that you necessarily have to be on the exact same page with your spouse or your significant other, but at the end of the day, your whys have to be the same.
Okay. Well, my bad. I didn't mean to get you off.
Does that make sense?
But that was something that came up, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later. But continue. Mom was a saver.
Penny
Dad
pincher.
was a spender.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this was the role that the life that I feel like I grew up in, and because of that, so both of them immigrants, right, came from Sierra Leone, went to school, did all the stuff that they had to do, and it's funny because even talking to my mom today, I was like, I need to be refreshed of your story, and she's like, well, what does my story have to do with you? And I'm like, girl, what do you mean? Your entire story.
First of all, I need you to talk like your mom actually talks.
She don't sound like that at all. My mom.
Give me the accent.
Well, like what does that have to do with you? Like what does like, and because she's very private is what I realized just like growing up. But just to understand that, I was like, well, what are you talking about? Everything about you, whether you like it or you don't like it, it's who I became. Like, so anyways, I say all that to say, grew up in that type of household, but was a business person from day zero. Like, I always wanted my own money. I always wanted to figure out a way to make it happen. So I remember being young and me and my little brother selling lemonade or selling Rice Krispie bars. And even though my mom's saying, oh, don't be on the main road, we're like, nah, that's where all the customers are at. So I remember one day we had to run home because mommy decided to come home early. We saw her making the turn. We had to like run, grab the table and be out because we were trying to sell our little lemonade and all the things we had to sell. So that was always me. I'm talking about 12 years old, braiding hair downstairs so that I could make some money on the side. As soon as I hit age old enough to work, like I was working, whether it be at the YMCA, whether it was at Coach so I can get the discount or whatever it was, always trying to figure out a way to navigate my money story, right? And be the one that to say, okay, I'm spending on this or I'm spending on that. So that, I mean, I was in Haiti for 5 years. We did our own thing. We started businesses. We did all kinds of things.
How'd y'all get to Haiti?
So originally it was a missions trip, but we stayed because we just loved it there. We loved the people. We loved everything about it, learned the language, learned all kinds of things that were there, started a business, and the business is still going to this day. Did some stuff with real estate that people were able to get jobs because that was the most important thing to us. It's always been for me, teach people how to fish. I don't care about, I'm not feeding you. Like I can't do it. That's not sustainable for you and it's not sustainable for me. So it's always been, how do I teach you how to fish so that you can sustain yourself? So small business has been a big deal and always a part of my life. And just watching my dad, I say he's a spender, but he's an entrepreneur. His mindset was always like, I remember being a kid, Saturdays, he had his own business called K-Ride.
Okay.
And he would pick up people that were handicapped and he would take them different places and he would get a nice little check every month. But his mindset was very entrepreneurial. But I knew that my dad always had more fun than my mom.
Yeah.
Like even just watching him now, like retired, living in Africa, living his best life, like building houses, he always had more fun as an entrepreneur. He always took the chance. Even if he was broke with it or whatever, he never cared. And he always had fun with it. Whereas my mom, she showed me another side with stability and making sure to manage your money well. And, you can do both, but it was still a different level, right? The exciting, fun entrepreneur. But then, you have the other person that's a little penny pitcher. But so for me, it was always finding that balance because there is a balance.
So your dad was going to spend a check and get it right back. And your mom was kind of just like...
My mom was going to save it all.
Bring it all into the storehouse and save it up.
To give example...
That had to be good for you growing up.
Yeah.
Mentally, you saw the pros and cons of both. Right?
Exactly.
It sounds like you watch your mom. She didn't have as much fun as your dad.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing when your dad had downtimes, your mom was kind of the
always
rock,
on top.
Like.
Yeah, always on top. And I mean, to give an example, my mom's been at the same company since before I was born. My mom's been at the exact same job. I don't know nobody who that, I mean, like literally I call her coworker my stepdad just because that's to her type of stability and mindset when it comes to finances. Whereas she probably could go somewhere else and make way more. But the mindset around finances is, but this is what's comfortable. This is what makes the most sense. You know what I mean? That there's no disruption here, right? Whereas, I mean, my dad had been in so many jobs, like it's a whole different mindset, but I think, so that's shaped me in every way. And that's shaped and sculpted who I am today in the fact of wanting to figure out how do we navigate this path? How do I see, the first generation, especially, we are here because our parents wanted a better life for us. And then sometimes they're not able to have that better life because they don't know how to manage in all those different ways. So giving them the power, giving them the strength as well to understand how do you navigate with this retirement fund? How do you go with this money and figure out ways to make more for you? And then being able to be in that space, I mean, you naturally feel the mission to the people that look like you to be able to educate them as well. It's one of those things where, you have to teach the ones around you. You have to pull them up. So it's almost, you have to differentiate for yourself also to, I'm not a charity. I can't give to everybody, but also I have to figure out a way that there's a balance in that where I can advocate and I can have that financial literacy piece as well.
So you got into wealth management and were you always in it? Like, tell me your story once you got into wealth management.
So I got in, I mean, I wouldn't say, we've always done finance stuff, but specifically in the field, I got into it and started off as an advisor. So, but we didn't really have to do much prospecting because clients were kind of already given to us at that point. So
you got to work on managing clients.
Managing clients,
have to kind of go out and get some.
Exactly.
You
and
feel
I mean,
like that helped your development? Get rid of like the pressure of bringing in clients?
Exactly.
But more so just like
honing the skills and being able to.
So working for a bigger firm, I take it, was basically they just gave you clients and you got good at working.
Exactly. And I think that was important at the beginning because it took away, like you said, it took away the fear, but also it allowed you that time to kind of grow yourself as a person. So take all your stuff and then make sure you get that's the time I got my certified chartered retirement planning, did all those other things because you have that time to grow yourself and still grow your business to some extent. So wasn't worried about branding and marketing and things like that, but still did have to like do some sort of conversion, right? So it wasn't
put your head down.
We did the work.
Got to work. Yeah.
Exactly. Did the work and then did some little conversion, right? Like added to your clientele. They gave you this other person, try to make it into more business from there. But then from there, life COVID, everything hit, right? And during that time, I was actually able to make a transition because I was doing really well in my current role. So I was able to make a transition as a coach for financial advisors. So teaching financial advisors about, marketing and CRM and all that stuff and trying to help them to develop themselves as well. And then more recently, that's when I've come back into the role as my daughter got a little bit older, kind of just come back into the role, super excited, charged up, and ready to just get back into it.
So you started as an advisor,
Mhm.
and then you went to basically coaching advisors
Exactly.
and teaching them how to be good at their job.
Exactly.
And now, after teaching them, you're like, man,
You know what?
I want to get back to it. Like,
Yeah.
I was really good at this. I want to get back to the streets, if you will.
Exactly. That part. And then really just feeling like my favorite part is the educating part. My favorite part is helping people that look like me and just people in general get to the next level and do things more than what they even expected for themselves. So I think this part felt more fulfilling.
So here's my question to you. How did you come up with the name Financial Navigator? I know you talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I want to hone in on that specifically. Like, why Financial Navigator? Why not financial tour guide or financial orientation leader or financial bus driver? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like those names and those titles and those little like catchy phrases, I feel like it's a big deal. Like people, right? You have people like the Budgetnista, you have people like the Moneynista, you have like all these names that people kind of call themselves and they're easy to remember, right? And I think that also it just helps you to know what's that person about within just a phrase.
Yeah.
And I felt like with the Budgetnista, okay, she's gonna help me with my budgeting and my cash flow, whatever it is. But I feel like when I was explaining to people, I'm a financial advisor, they were still lost. It was still foggy. Like, okay, well, what does she really do? How does she really assist someone? Whereas when I came across and just thought about the name, the Financial Navigator, I was able to understand that's pretty clear. So I was testing it out with people and kind of asking them their question, like, okay, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? They're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's clear. It makes sense. It's not a question of what is it that you're really going to help somebody with. So for me, that stuck right away just because I think those things are important, especially in our arena as far as like in finance, because there's just so many people out there doing so many different things that the public just gets confused. So if you're not specific and clear in what it is that you're doing, I feel like people are just a little bit lost.
So tell me about those confusions you feel like people have when they're either looking for an advisor or are trying to identify who can help them.
I think it's a lot to do with a lot of the, YouTube universities and just random, everyone offering advice and everyone thinking that maybe that advice is for them. So a lot of people I know would approach me with like, oh, I know I need a trust.
Right.
Or, hey, I'm doing my estate planning, but they don't have anything. Like they got $100,000 in their 401k or that you don't need a trust for that.
Right.
You just need to tilt that properly, send it to the right people and you're good. Like
you
don't need a trust. But I mean, I came across certain lawyers that they have their boutiques or they had their different things they were doing. And off the top, they were charging people $2,500 or $5,000 or $6,000 without even having a conversation, just telling them, oh, my standard fee is this for a trust. They weren't even talking to you about the fact that you might not even need a trust.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I feel like the lawyers and the attorneys and the estate planners, they're probably having a great time with YouTube University. They probably the ones posting that stuff.
I mean, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that people come back to because that's the only one you really want to make sure you're good with is the law anyway. So it's like, okay, well, lawyer and then your tax person is probably maybe sometimes you'll reach out and check. But especially with the law, people want to make sure that it's a certain type of way. And I think that it's causing a lot of confusion. People are like, okay, I'm just going to ask this person, or I'm just going to Google this and try to figure out how do I invest in this or invest in that. And I'm not saying like, of course, there's great ways to make money, but some of that stuff, I mean, it's a lot. It just doesn't.
Talk about the confusion folks have with the title financial advisor. I mean, you can be in this business 50 years, all the accolades in the world, and your title's financial advisor, or you can be 3 days in, get the easiest license you can grab, not even be fully licensed, can't trade somebody's money, and can only sell one product, and also be titled a financial advisor.
Exactly. And I think that you just hit it on the head as far as why it could be so confusing, because it doesn't help you to understand much about what that person does. And there's so many things inside of it, right? Because as an advisor, we can help you kind of understand a little bit about your estate planning. We can do insurance. We can do so many, help you with the specific annuities or help you with your investments.
As a holistic advisor.
As a holistic, right? So there's so many places you can go with it that it's like people get confused because they just think, oh, well, I just need this one person. And as long as it says this, then I'm good. But at the end of the day, there's so much more to it. And that's where it comes to ask the right questions and figure out, you don't need specific names on who people work with and things like that, but do find out what type of, what's the niche? Is there a niche? Is there a specific area of focus? Are there certain credentials that person has that are aligned with what you want to do, right? So especially like small businesses, for example, I think the big thing is even exit planning. Sometimes people don't even think about how am I going to exit, whereas an advisor is going to help you try to figure out what is that strategy. Is your business even worth anything? Like, what is your valuation? A lot of people want to just start a business, but are you starting something that you can pass on? Are you starting something? Do you have a succession plan? Do you kind of know what you're even going to do after this? Or do you know who you're going to give it to? So that it also has a life of itself too. So kind of understanding, hey, if I am going to choose to be with this person or that person, what are my needs? And can they really fulfill my needs? Is it just a simple, financial plan where I'm going to just talk about my life and get into retirement at age 70 or 67, depending on that person? Or is it a little bit more complex?
And that's
than
some people's specialty and discipline. Like they're strictly retirement folks. Like
exactly.
You come to them when you're 50 and have money.
Exactly. And don't talk to them about college planning. Don't talk to them about nothing else because they don't really, and it's about you too on the front end, having those conversations and understanding, hey, how complex, or can we get, or do they even have those maybe structures in place? Maybe they aren't the person on the team that focuses on that, but maybe they do have those structures in place where, they can get whatever resources that are necessary for you to be able to. And I think that's a big deal, is also understanding that there's teams. Right? It's not always going to be that specific person is going to be the jack of all trades, but also understanding that, does that person have a strong team behind them? Are they going to be able to, hey, they're not my accountant, but are they going to work in sync with my accountant? Are they going to work well with my lawyer? That I can have all these people on one team, that when I'm getting ready to make this big move or do this other thing, I just got to call such and such, and they've already spoken to my other parts of my team and they can help me make those decisions. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you can move forward if you have a good team. But if you don't have a good team behind you, it doesn't matter how hard you try and how much work you're doing. It's just you doing the work. So it's like also understanding to allocate all the resources too.
Oh, yeah. And delegation is something we've definitely talked about in a few episodes of the series. Let me ask you, do you think what questions, I mean, we're obviously speaking of Black entrepreneurs, what questions do you feel like Black entrepreneurs should be asking when they're walking into the office of a financial advisor to make sure that person is good for them?
I think the biggest question is, the first thing is understanding, what do you need? So what do I need as a professional, right? Am I just starting out my business and I need help with cash flow, budgeting? I need help separating my finances, because that's a big thing, right? A lot of people commingle. So I think it's really understanding, as a person that's starting out a business, what do I need? And then if you know that those are the things that you need, being able to ask someone, hey, do you work with people who just started their business? Have you ever worked with someone who has? And if so, what are the type of things that you offer them? And kind of, because you may not know all of them, right? You may just know that I have a business and I'm new. Maybe that's all you know, and that's fine. But being able to approach that person and ask them, hey, do you work with people who just started businesses, or are you specifically to retirement planning? And if you are, can you help me to set up my fund for retirement, or my simple IRA, or my this or my that? So it's really, number one is knowing what you need. And if you do know, then being able to vocalize that. But if you don't know, being able to at least know where you are in your process, that you can ask whatever question is needed to kind of move the dial. So I would say that first question is really, hey, have you ever worked with someone that's like me, that's in this space? And if so, what were the different advice that you would have offered, that you offered them? And then that's the easier next thing, right? Because now I'm letting you know, okay, yeah, actually, I got this photographer I'm working with. I got this person. I got that person. And what I helped them with at the beginning was, separating, opening up those other accounts that was only focused toward their business, and helping them to understand that, okay, we need to set up something for payroll. We do need to set up some sort of retirement. This business isn't going to take us forever. What about life insurance? Who do we have that we also want to protect? So having that conversation, or also asking, hey, well, I'm at this stage. Eventually, I want to sell my business, right? Do you have the tools in place? Okay. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but also being able to understand where you are so that I can put you in a position to say, oh yeah, I do work with this lady and she does business valuation. So first is knowing where you are, but then also in the process of that, just being able to kind of ask, if you don't specifically know where you are, just telling someone that and explaining your situation.
So I'm going to pivot to the topic now. The topic ahead, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's necessary, especially for entrepreneurs to understand what they're getting themselves into. I think as entrepreneurs and business people, we try to solve problems fast. There's not always, time is money. So if we sit here and do our due diligence too much, we're spinning our circles, and analysis paralysis comes into play. Sometimes we're like, okay, they recommended me over here. They do a good job. I'm gonna mess with them too.
Yep.
But those are good to help them with some questions. What's a budget? What is it? Can we start from scratch? Can you tell us what it means?
Yes, of course. So, I mean, a budget is going to be what you're going to write down and say, hey, these are my discretionary expenses. So the things that I can spend however I want with, like, whether that be hobbies or like we talked about earlier, or and normally that's supposed to be about 30%. Then you have 20% that should be your specific like savings, investing.
So this is your strategy to budgeting.
Strategy. Okay. So I mean, we want to start with the name of what budgeting is. It's just really just writing it.
Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions. Like, you're on Twitter and you see the picture of Terry Crews and like, it's my financial advisor for the year, right? Like,
we not spending no money,
right? And like, I grew up with a cheap daddy. I hope he doesn't. Like, I want him to listen. But I hope he does. My dad was cheap, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny because we were never technically on a budget. Budgeting is like the planning, like just
budget.
We talk about big companies, right?
Exactly.
Like a huge company has a whole finance department, and all they do is forecast the next year.
Exactly.
Budgeting is understanding how much money should come in and where that money goes.
Exactly.
And I think some people, like, you can budget your way and still have still be in debt
and still be broke.
But the fact that you woke up and had a plan for it,
yeah.
Right?
So exactly. So budgeting is really just that. It's really just creating a plan for where your money should go. So it's really just sitting down, whether that be a piece of paper. Some people like do it like that digitally, or, there's these budgeting apps or things like that. But it's really just coming up with a plan to say, hey, I'm going to put this much in my savings. I'm going to put this much in these. I have this certain amount that is non-negotiable. I have to spend on my housing, my food, my this, my that, whatever that may be. But also just putting those in those different areas. I mean, that's the simple definition of what it is just creating that plan.
Have you ever heard that stat? And I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of money stays in the white community for like 3 weeks once it hits somebody's bank account, the Asian community for like a month or two, and then like the Black community on average like 7 minutes.
Yes.
I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Because obviously it pertains to budgeting.
I mean, it definitely pertains to budgeting, but it more pertains to that other side that we talked about, where even though you make that plan, but sticking to that plan. Right. So yes, somebody can have, like we said, a wonderful budget, right? It's written down. It's so nice. And that's why a lot of times, even with my clients, when they send me their budgets, I'm a little bit weary. I'm more interested to see an actual credit card statement, or to see, I can show me your credit card statement. I'll show you who you are. Yeah. Show me your bank statement. Like, I'll show you what you like. I'll show you what you love. I'll show you what you can't
that was an African
stop buying.
Right
like, but that's real. Like, you show me, you can tell me your budget all day. Yeah. But that doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. Like, I want to see, what does your actual statement show? What are you, I'm going to tell you exactly who you are. I'm going to tell you where you're spending all your money. I'm going to tell you the things that you need to stop buying if I can see where the money actually going. So the budget is one part, but that's like the smallest part, because even though you have those plans, you need to actually match them up with the reality, and then really kind of go back to it and say, okay. And it's ever changing. It's evolving. I think that's one thing to understand too. It doesn't mean your budget today may not be your budget next week or next month, but it's understanding, hey, where is the money going?
Well, let's have a plan, and then if we deviate from it, we at least know how to get back on track.
Exactly. We at least know that we deviated. Yeah. Otherwise, if you have no plan at all, you don't plan. You just plan to fail. Yeah. So you didn't do any type of planning. So at least you have the plan. You create some sort of idea. But even for that, so some people say, 50, 30, 20. That's like the idea. 50% should be towards your needs, right? Your necessities. And then 20% should be for savings. And 30.
Break this down slower.
Yeah.
Break this down slower, please.
So some people like the concept.
Give them a chance to get their notebooks out.
Yeah. So some people like the concept 50, 30, and then 20, right? So 50% should be for your needs. So housing, food, whatever, childcare, etc. And then 20% should be your savings. Okay. And then 30% should be your discretion. So discretionary. So hobbies, your gym, your different things like that. Some people I've heard travel, shoes, exactly. Us, we like the nice things.
Which I could argue that travel might be
a necessity. Some people might say that that's mental health, and And I'm not mad at it. Let's just make a budget for it.
So one thing about me, I will hop on that plane.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you make a budget for it.
As long as you plan for it.
As long as you plan for it. Like, we just don't need to be pulling out the necessity money for that trip. That's where we get into trouble. And it's creating those, even the emergency fund. That's where I know we kind of mentioned a little bit about that, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to screw up your budget.
So what's an emergency fund?
So you need to have, most people say anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So if you're single.
3 to 6 months of what?
Of your expenses.
Expenses or income? Which one?
No, your expenses saved. Okay. Yep, your expenses. Because your income, I mean, it could vary, right? But at least if you have you made that budget, you know how much you spend, you know how much you need to live. So for at least 3 months, 3 to 6 months, you should have that somewhere saved.
And what makes it vary from 3 to 6? Is it just your situation?
It's most people, what they'll say is it should be 3 months if it's like you and a spouse.
Okay.
If you have somebody else, because then they're going to be able to pick up, or spouse or significant other, they'll maybe be able to pick up the slack.
Or a spouse
dual income, exactly. Whereas
what if the spouse isn't working? Then
that's going to be different, right? You need to focus more on that 6 months.
Okay.
But even that is just a rule of thumb. So, I mean, people are going to go as far as they want. But, I mean, we've all heard the saying that most Americans don't have even $400 in their bank account for an emergency, right?
Yeah, I rebuke
Tire
that.
popped or something happened. Now the nice budget that you created, it's in the garbage because now you need to spend that money on something else.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding where your expenses are, and then also having some sort of savings where you can pull that if necessary, and understanding what's the need for that. Because some people, they'll be like, I got this savings I'm building up, and then an emergency comes, and then they still want to use the credit card.
Right.
But it's like, wait, hold on. That's not the whole point of you building up that emergency fund. Is now we don't have to go to the credit card.
Yeah.
It's not now build up this credit and build up this this debt. Instead, it's take from that money and then also just pay it off and then keep moving from there. So now we didn't create this large amount of debt.
Yeah.
So that's also.
So I like this topic because I feel like as a Black financial advisor, it's important. I mean, we are bringing a lot of stuff to our community for the first time. And it's very shiny. It's very attractive when they hear it for the first time. But I feel like budgeting is important, even though it can be boring sometimes, because it's almost irresponsible for us to teach people how to invest, buy real estate, XYZ.
I don't want to invest none of your money.
How to get your money right.
Yeah, I don't want to invest no money if you don't have a savings. If you don't have nothing, there's no way. I feel like
I'll talk to some high school kids or maybe some college kids and be like, all right, bet, I'm going to take my rent money and buy the S&P. It's like, then how you going to pay your rent?
But not just that. You're just going to go back to the S&P and take your money out.
Boom.
And you're not going to stay in the market.
And it might be less. Because
you're not going to stay in the market. And then you needed it. So normally you shouldn't even be investing any money that you need within within 1 to 2 years. Like, that's not going in the market. If I know I'm buying a house in a couple years or whatever it is, I'm not putting that money in the market because that money can go down. And that's one thing it's the lack of knowledge to understand even what the market is, right? Understanding that, hey, the market can go up and down, but we're in here for the long haul. You don't worry about that because that's money that you didn't need anyways for the next however long. Right. Whereas money that you need right now, you need to keep that liquid. That needs to be ready to turn into cash at any moment. So might be looking at like a certificate, getting some good rates off of that or something else. So that's going to be, you can purchase a certificate with the bank or with where the rates were really good, like let's say especially when COVID hit, like when interest rates went up. So when interest rates went up, you were able to get like 5.5 or sometimes even closer to like 6% of. These are some good questions.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the people at home know what.
Yes, so that's
we over here talking in code.
Yes, I know, right? That's true. I should speak to the people. Okay, so yes,
but like 5.5%.
So like,
so how does that work? Can you break it down?
So your interest. So you're able to get like, let's say, you put in $1,000, right? And you put that money in a certificate and you have like 6 months, or you can do like a 3 month, or you can do a 12 month. When you put that money into a certificate, you're not going to be able to pull it out for whatever that term is. Okay. If you do pull it out before that term is over, you're going to get a penalty and you're not going to get the amount that was promised. So let's say,
as long as you keep it in there, you're going to get what you thought you
exactly. You're going to get the exact amount. So the reason why I brought that up is because we were talking about short term. Right. So if you're talking about something that, okay, hey, I know I'm going to need this money, but I don't need it for a year. Right. So let me do this 6 month certificate that I can get 5% of interest, guaranteed money on top of my $1,000. Right. Yeah. So I know that I'm going to get at least a little something, so my money's not just sitting in a bank account, savings, not earning anything. But I know that I need it soon, so I'm not going to go put it in the market.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean?
So the market is fluid. I mean, we could run into 5 months of just
I mean, it could just be going down, down, down. Like we've seen it, right? We've seen crazy things, especially during the time for COVID. We saw all kinds of stuff happening. So it's all about
somebody coughed in the back, right? When you said COVID, by the way, that was hilarious.
I was like, COVID, oh my gosh, y'all got something y'all need to tell me.
About to get her a Ricola.
I'm like, what's going on here? But yeah, so that's the big thing is really just understanding what we can do with the money. And that's the part where the financial advisor is going to come in, right? So like if I have just cash just sitting there, do I have an emergency fund? So there's levels to it, right?
So once you've budgeted money towards that short term, I'm guessing there's a medium and long term, right?
Exactly.
So where do you start budgeting assets towards in the medium and the long term? Well, I'm sorry. Like, so short term, that's kind of cash reserves, whether it's actually in cash or whether it's something guaranteed, short term XYZ. What does that medium term look like when we put it? Because I'm guessing you want to fill up the cash reserves first, so now we can start going.
So I would say medium term is going to be something like, let's say, depending on what your life is, right? So for me, I have 16 years before my daughter's in school, but it's not long term. It's going to be retirement. I have a long time before that's happening. So medium term for me is something where I'm still putting that in the market. That's something that aggressively I needed to grow so that baby girl can have something to go to school with. But then long term, of course, I'm still putting it in the market, but I'm doing something a little bit different with it. So I feel like that's going to depend on the strategy is just going to depend on what the use is and what's the need for it.
So it sounds like short, medium, and long term, the amount, how aggressive it is. As that increases, that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you recommend that business owners, especially entrepreneurs, should make sure that short term is strong and equipped
short term
before
is
they
strong.
start.
Yeah, short term is strong. And then the biggest thing I would say with what I've noticed with entrepreneurs is that commingling, separate your stuff. Like that's day zero. Once you realize you're about to be an entrepreneur, you're about to start a business or whatever it might be, you need to separate. You need to now create your business account and you need to let money come out of that business account. Even if you're paying into that business account, you just need that money. You need to start creating some sort of track record for that business. So and then you need to create your own track record. So you can pay yourself out of that, or you can do however you decide that you want to do it. But the biggest thing is getting away from commingling, getting away from that.
I know a lot of people probably, swiping that business card at Chili's.
I mean, I got people that start businesses and then decide that they want to expand, and then out their personal stuff, they $50,000 in debt for a business. Where in reality, there's so much money out there where you could have got $1,000 or you could have did so many other things if you were at least creating some sort of track record or even just building up your own credit for the business.
So that goes back to the budgeting and the planning and making sure
making sure that you're in the space to even do those things. Because, I mean, some people, we want to start a business right away, but sometimes you need to take a step back and be like, okay, am I really ready to take on all this?
Okay. So we talked about this before a little bit, and I think this would be a good question, especially for people like me. But is there a difference between budgeting and being cheap?
When you say difference, I mean, it's going to depend on what your budget is. So, for example, like if I have allocated for my budget $100 for shoes. I say that because somebody I know, mentioned $100 for shoes or $200. That's fine. But if that's what I allocated, then that's what I allocated. It doesn't mean that it's being cheaper. I'm sticking to my budget.
It's just having the plan.
I'm sticking to my
budget. I feel like
when
people walk into our offices and they hear the word budget, they think you're just going to be like
people just run away,
scrutinizing them.
And that's why
we're not in the business of telling grown men or women
what to do,
how much to spend. Right? It's just more showing them. You're saying,
and that's what I'm saying. Even as far as my clients not focusing too much on their budget report that they give me, I'm like, okay, but this says you're supposed to have $35,000 in your account, but in reality you have $5,000. So this budget that you're giving me is not real. So let's talk about real life and let's talk about what's really happening. And then let's figure out from there where we can take away certain money. And so we can figure out what can we really save. So it all starts with savings and really actually deciding in your life, what are you willing to cut out? And that's why I was mentioning from the beginning, the why has to be so strong. Because once you realize, okay, it's because I have 2 years I want to retire. I have 2 years I want to do this. I have whatever I want to do this. But the why is strong, then you're able to I can cut out not going to go out to eat those 3, 4, or 5 times at a restaurant I didn't really want to go eat at anyways, but all my friends were going. But I have the mindset, and it's even clearer to somebody else because you're able to say like, oh, hey guys, not coming tonight. I'm planning for that trip to Greece.
Right.
Hey guys, not coming tonight. I'm planning for it's even more socially. And it's putting it in your mind, it's putting it in your mouth, and it's putting it in the atmosphere.
Because I feel like people that just say, I want to put away 10 grand, it's cool. But that 10 grand isn't a strong enough purpose.
It's not enough of a why to it.
My son is going to school in 5 years. I need to have this so he can go. And, and when you eating at, I don't know, what's an expensive? When you eat Nobu.
Look, we said it at the same time.
About to order the king crab, and you think about little Junior.
That's at home, like.
Yeah, on the side of the road saying, trying to pay for school.
Or it's getting himself into debt. I mean.
Exactly.
And that's a big, thing for like the Black women clients that I have that are older women that have this feeling that they need to pay for their children's school because either somebody didn't pay for theirs or whatever.
Man,
like you'll find people getting themselves into debt, like literally getting themselves into debt, not recognizing that, hey, you cannot apply for retirement, anything. Like when you retire, you just have to do it.
And I feel like a budget helps. A budget or a financial plan overall helps you realize that, right? You bring somebody in your office at 30, 35 years old, and they say all these things they want to do. But then when you actually draw it up, it's like, look, you literally have to decide between paying for these kids' school in full
and your own,
or you retiring at 65.
Exactly. And it's that part.
And that's why helps them, because there's a plan that helps them make a decision.
Exactly.
Or that helps them make a decision like, look, I need to make more money.
Exactly.
Right.
And you hit it on the head as far as like, it's the action of just doing the budget that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's even if it's maybe not exactly or, and I think sometimes we get fearful because we're not on point exactly where we want to be or whatever that, but it's the action of physically saying like, hey, I'm spending, oh my gosh, I'm spending this much. Oh my gosh, I'm doing this much. And then actually that action alone is triggering something in your brain that when you go do those things that you just saw are costing you X, Y, and Z, you kind of step back to be like, oh, dang, I did see that was such and such coming out of my budget. And I did already have this plan that I wanted to do X, Y, Z as savings. So let me try to, maybe I don't need that one. Maybe I can get that one instead. Or do I really even need this at all? Kind of, and you go back to this level of reassessing, like that level of consumerism. And am I just being a consumer or is this something I for real need? And I think especially most people, their business is a strong enough reason for them to even have those savings, right? Because the why is strong there. But then it's understanding, hey, I need to also separate that and make sure that this is this way, but also what about my personal retirement? Because I'm doing this thing for my business, but at the end of the day, is the business going to retire? How am I going to?
I just feel like there's so many arms and legs that an entrepreneur has to keep track of. And it makes sense why they need a financial advisor because, again, I feel like a corporate professional doesn't really have to think about retirement as long as they're putting somewhere in their 401k.
Exactly.
Right? Doesn't have to
with
think
their
about
eyes
payroll,
closed.
doesn't have to think about new business coming in, doesn't have to think about a lot of things. But the individual that is in business has so many just, if they want to live the life the way that they should, that we feel they should live, there's just so many things they have to keep track of.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to do that for forever. So they still.
Because my thing is, after a long day of trying to get clients, then actually taking calls and dealing with people and being stressed out, last thing I want to do is come home and look at my budget.
Exactly. And figure out what's the next step. When in reality, that's not like a lot of people get into a business for a specific either product that they like to sell or a service that they like to give. But all that other part, they're not accountants. That's not what they're doing. They're not financial advisors. They're not all these other things. Whereas, like you said, in the corporate office, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff because you have a big accounting firm, you have a big finance department, you have those things where you just put a little money and they're putting in a target fund for you for X years that they think that you're going to retire. You never saw it, but when it's time to retire, you know that money's there.
It's good.
Whereas
there's no regulation once you open up your own personal individual retirement account.
Exactly.
It can sit in cash. I remember one time I managed a portion of my assets outside of the strategy I do for my clients, and there was an ETF that I like to use. And that ETF was, I don't know what happened to it, but it's basically closed. And I probably got an email from Charles Schwab or something like that. But didn't think about it. I'm busy with work, my business, XYZ. And then I realized during one of the big run-ups we had last year, I was out of the market for like 2 months.
I mean,
and the market was up like 10, 15%. I was out of the market because they sold it and nobody told me. And it's like, when you're busy managing a business,
managing
again, that
yourself.
would never happen with my clients because we wake up every day and we do that. But
that's your entire job.
I sometimes don't check my own personal stuff all the time.
Exactly.
Which is why most of it is professionally managed and that little portion wasn't. But it's just one of those things. It's like, I could only imagine coming home and adding that. Like, I feel like if I had a checklist of stuff to do and they didn't all get done, that's the first thing coming off my list.
It's that. And then on top of that, just to be honest, I know a lot of advisors that have advisors.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it's something that,
Yeah.
like you said, like we do it for our business and that's our business, right? But a lot of times, even to check your own finances to make sure that you're following those same paths along the way, like you also sometimes need an accountability partner.
And not only in
and I
business,
think that's big.
We just do a bad job of taking care of ourselves.
Exactly.
I think we naturally want to take care of people, not advisors, just people
as
general,
humans.
Right?
Yes.
We want to. You're a mother. I'm sure you want to make sure your kids are good before you're good.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, your mental health or physical well-being might be fading.
Exactly.
Right? If as a business owner, you're making sure everything is okay, your clients are okay, your employees are okay, but then you may not be okay yourself because you're like, girl, I'll take care of me later.
Yeah,
Right?
I'll figure it out as I go. I'll give the child my business. I'll do this. But in reality, you never
Yeah.
spoke to that child. They don't want your business. So you don't even have an exit strategy.
Right.
You don't know how you're going to retire. You don't know even what your business is worth.
Mhm.
So you don't know if you're going to be able to sell the business when you get done. You've been the sole person doing the business. So you really couldn't sell it even if you wanted because they've been really buying the time to work with you. But you didn't prepare anything. I have a client now. He's been in his own type of business for, I want to say, like 15 years. He's been doing it. He has no savings.
Right.
There's nothing. There's no retirement. There's nothing. So if he was to drop dead today, there's the building. But guess what? He doesn't own the building.
Right.
He's been leasing it out anyway. So it's like there's these different situations where, but as business owners, we're so into what we did and what we built up that is so hard to let go some of those things to let other people help you. When in reality, it's like if you don't let them help you, you're not going to survive.
Right.
You can't do it by yourself. Like it's not possible. We have to use each other and use all these different things that are put in the places to help us to grow. Because that's what's going to help you move the dial. It's not going to be just you. There's only but so much you could do.
Yeah.
There's only but so many hours in a day. And most business owners don't even like doing those other parts of the business. But that's what you need to grow it.
And I feel like people that make money struggle with that the most. When I say make, like there's people that get paid, right? You have a job, you get paid for it. There's people that make money, literally like sugar, spice, everything nice, and now making money from scratch, or providing a service, or selling a product, XYZ. People that make money feel like because they make money or they're creating money,
they can figure it out.
It's going to continue to be creative. And COVID showed us that's not the case,
Nope.
right? And when someone comes into your office, it's one of those things where it's like you have to explain to them, look, when you work at Pepsi for your whole life and they get rid of you, you still have the income you made. And then on top of that, you have a 401k. You have something to speak for.
Yep.
Where business owners struggle is because they're not budgeting into the right places correctly. When that business goes under, God forbid, because we don't wish that on anybody, but if that business goes under, they have nothing to show for it because that income is not only stopped, you haven't taken the time to make your own 401k retirement savings type.
And I'll take it even one step further to say, it's not even that they don't have anything for it. They actually have negative things for it. So like I have one lady now, she decided watching YouTube University, right? Instagram, all these different things. She decided she wanted to buy a business. Young girl, 20, 25, 26 years old. Big accomplishment, great job, high five, pat on the back. But now she's over 60K in debt because she didn't know anything about that industry. She didn't know anything about. She just watching it, seeing that that's what everybody's doing, saw a great opportunity. Well, what she thought was a great opportunity, bought it, and then from there now she has. So now imagine that she's not able to pay that. Now you're not only do you not have nothing saved up for yourself, but now you have how many 60K worth of debt for something that doesn't even exist anymore. So it's just understanding that to take care of others, you have to take care of yourself. Because I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how much you do for other people. At the end of the day, it's not going to be for forever. So you do have to prepare something for yourself. And if you're saying that if you have a family or like the young man I'm helping out with his like photography stuff, he has people he wants to take care of. So if you have people you want to take care of, you got to leave something for them. You got to figure out how does that work. And so what does that mean for you? Does that mean a life insurance policy? Does that mean making sure you have business insurance? Because guess what? If someone slips and falls in your place, they can sue you.
Yeah, especially if I fall.
So are you ready?
Get my money.
So are you ready and are you prepared to be able to hold up all those different things? Do you have your people that are working for you titled properly, which that's even a big deal too, because you can get charged if you're calling them 1099s and they should be W-2s.
Right.
So all those things are things that as a business owner, this man just wants to come and take pictures. He don't want to focus on none of those other things. Like that's his passion. That's his thing that he came for. He didn't come for none of that extra stuff. So it's like, but So people are more than willing, once they understand what you do, to have you help them to actually do those things, because they didn't want to work on all those stuff. They started the business because they wanted to make candles. They didn't want to be an accountant and do this and do that, but because they're so unsure of what you do, they're fearful that they don't even want to spend the money. And it's not because they really don't want to, because they don't even know that those are things that you can help them with.
Can I use this opportunity to make I have a confession. So I'm a wealth management professional. I've been doing it over a decade.
I mean, we love confessions. Let me sit up.
Can I talk to you guys? Is it okay if I talk to everybody back here?
Look, I'm like, let me sit up well for the.
Can I vent?
I feel like this might be a star part.
I've been in the business 11 years, and I personally hate budgeting, and I personally don't keep a budget.
And you're cheap.
Well,
we talked about that earlier.
That also helps, right?
Okay.
I'm cheapo depot. But I've always hated budgeting, but obviously being in the business, I know the importance of making sure everything is getting funded. So I've kind of created a strategy for individuals that don't like to budget or don't like, again, end of the day, going to a document and being, well, let me make sure I stay under $200 for my, groceries, or like going out one night a week. I much would rather make sure those important things are taken care of at the beginning. Let's say the beginning of a check.
So you're automating.
Not even automate.
Okay.
Because I still don't like to automate. It's weird. Like, I'm old school. Oh my bad. I like to sit down and just make sure everything's taken care of, right?
Okay.
So like when I get paid, I put an X amount into this account. I put an X amount into saving for my taxes. I put X amount away. Actually, I'll pay my mortgage even before the month is over. Right? Okay. I will if I got some debt I'm taking care of, I'm paying that first. Like, I will literally make sure everything you said 50, 20, 30, I'll make sure the 50 taken care of and the 20's taken care of. And then that 30 might be 30, or that check might be bigger, so it might be 40, 50, or it might be small. But then I know, let's say for the next 2 weeks,
I don't got to worry about it.
I can do what I want. Right?
Yes.
If I got a check coming in 5 days and I got $6 in my account, oh well, right? Like, you just gonna have to deal with that. It might be ramen, it might not. I'm gonna stay my butt inside.
Yeah.
Or hey,
because outside is expensive.
That's
a whole nother.
You get charged to walk out the crib nowadays. But I feel like some days I might want to go to Nobu. And some days I might want to buy some nice shoes, you know what I mean? But I've always, and I think with entrepreneurs too, it's one of those things, just make sure everything's taken care of, and then you can have the rest of the day or the rest of the check to yourself.
But I think that comes with planning, as far as understanding.
It's still a plan. It's still a plan.
Yeah, because you know what that number is, right? So the fact that you even know what that number is, you already created a plan. So I think in that, and if that works for you, because that's important, right? Yeah. What works? Like, I could have all these different plans. If none of them work, who cares? Right. And even like I mentioned, some people like to automate. Some people like it where right away, this money goes, half of this check goes to this account, the other half goes here, the other half goes here.
You will get money because I gave it to you. Okay?
But some people love that automation, and they know out of that bank account they're paying their bills, and they know out of the other bank account that's their extra savings money. So they don't even have to worry about it, because now I don't have to worry about putting this here and this here, because now my savings is here, and I can see what's that building up for, and I can understand. Oh man, savings is not what I thought it was. All right, that dream trip I was hoping on, I might have to forego that, or I might have to go somewhere local for now and then do that next year, or whatever it might be. But it's really just about like making that plan and really addressing what means something to you. What are the things that are important to you? Because I'm never going to have somebody budget in a way that they're not able to do those things that are most important to them. Because you're making the money. You should be able to live a certain type of life. It's true. I feel like, but we need to figure out within our means. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying you should be $100,000 salary and you're living like your $200,000 salary. It doesn't make sense. Right. But within your means of your lifestyle, what is realistic? Is it realistic to buy a house right now? Maybe not. Is that a great opportunity to build up some equity and do all these things? Right. Yes, but if you're in position. If you're not in position, you need to be renting. And you need to understand, when is it a good time to buy a house? Is it when I'm, at this age, or is it about any of that stuff? It's not. It's really about, have you even chosen an area you're going to be in for a while? Or is this something where I'm just not, I'm not even going to be here for a long time. So it's learning also what makes the most sense and what can I do something with. Right. So I think that's a big deal. Like my husband and I, when we came to Chicago, we moved into a 3-unit. Rented out the top, rented out the bottom, and then we're good to go. Anytime I want to leave, because I know who I am and I know how I live my life, if I want to get up and go, I can.
I feel like multi-units are the new American dream, by the way.
I mean, they're a big deal if you can find them.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part, is that you can barely find them anywhere because people have understood the importance of, it's
YouTube University.
Yeah,
Man.
exactly. And just knowing the right people in the right rooms. And I think that's a big thing too, because as business owners, the bigger you build your community of other business owners, I mean, the better it is for you, because now you're able to find people in all those different spaces that can, just meeting of the minds. And that's a big deal.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me too. I tell this story a lot. I used to have a client at my old firm who was a waiter at the Marriott Hotel, did events, whatever, never really made over, he's probably 50, 55 years old, never made over 50 to 60 grand in his life. And he was worth just under $1 million. Actually, I take it back. He had $1 million in investment.
I believe
assets,
it. I believe it.
Vice versa, I work with a lot of corporate employees, executives at that continue to run into issues with cash flow, right? And again, get bumped up to 200K. Now they spending 200K. Get bumped up 300K, right? And that lifestyle keeps growing with them. And it's one of those things, you see the difference is the budgeting, right? Like somebody with 50K having $1 million. I mean, when we think $1 million is a lot of money, and it is, but it's easily achievable, right? Like doing all the right things. I mean, this guy lived beneath his means. This guy bought a duplex, lived in the other side, then when paid it off, hopped in the, so rented out the other one, then bought it. Just kept doing the right stuff.
But it's the mindset.
Yeah.
What was money to him?
Meanwhile,
that's
his
the
cash
biggest
flow
thing.
was bigger than the person making $500,000 a year.
But even you can see right there, even the fact that he's working at he doesn't care what somebody thinks. Right. That's the biggest thing, where a lot of times in our community, we need to show people that we're flourishing through what we, either what we have on or what we're, at Nobu on Instagram, whatever it is, we need to show that. So when the income goes up, all of a sudden the expenses go up. I mean, I'm talking to people, they're making 2, 3, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're still, I'm talking about debt is
struggling.
Debt is crazy.
I think that's one of the crazy things. Because when I speak to a client that's making more money than me, and I'm like, how are you not able to?
No, I understand it, because as your money goes up, you start to feel, this is the biggest, not lie, but the biggest, well, it is a lie. The biggest thing we tell ourselves is, I deserve it.
Yeah.
I deserve it. It literally is the reason why we're in, like, you will find some stuff that in reality, it's not that you don't deserve it. It's not, but what does that mean to you to say you deserve something? Just because you did, oh man, but I had a good week, I deserve a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a da-da-da-da, but I deserve. This is a conversation that we literally have. You could be in Target, all of a sudden your cart is full. You literally came for toothpaste and you're like literally, and I laugh sometimes because my husband's like, oh, why don't you just go? I'm like, I'm not going to the store. And it's not because I don't want to go, but it's because I know the trap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, babe, if I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna come home with $250. Whereas if I send this Instacart man, he's just gonna get what I said he's gonna get. And I might spend a little bit.
It's a little more expensive. You think that's a good budgeting tool?
For me, it is a great budgeting tool, because at the end of the day, number one, if my husband goes, we're not gonna ever eat. Because he gonna come home with all kinds of stuff that was not on the list, and nothing that was on the list. I'm gonna have to make a picture chart of what I need. Like, it's just never gonna work. He gonna be FaceTiming me the entire time.
He's so funny.
We're not gonna eat. So baby girl not gonna get food. So he can't go. So then if I go, yes, I may do it in a timely fashion, but I will add some stuff that is not on the list. It's not on the plan. So
you got scallops and stuff, and that.
I mean, come on, you weren't cooking scallops. You had no plan. Like the king crab was, just because it was on sale. Just because it was on sale, you did not have to buy it. Yeah. But the mindset is like, oh, but I deserve that.
Yeah.
So I have my cousin. He's trying to do some finance stuff, and he's like, Khadia, you women, you watch too much of the Disney movies, so y'all think y'all deserve everything. And I'm like, I don't attribute it to that. I more think it's about like social media and just seeing things, and just like things that literally I didn't know about this 5 seconds ago.
Right.
I never was bothered. I never felt no type of way. I never had it, and I never even knew it existed. But now all of a sudden it just comes up on my feed, and all of a sudden now I'm on the other page Googling it and finding out how much does it cost so that I can buy it and send it to myself. And then Amazon is so easy, right? To Prime, everything comes in 2 days. I feel like sometimes the same day. So it's like this consumerism. It's so much a part of us that's like. That's why I always come back to the mindset.
It's easy.
What's your mindset around the money? Do you look at it and like, literally, I was like, okay, but what do I already have? Because in reality, I don't need none of that extra stuff. And
it's easier and easier nowadays to spend money. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would give me like $10, and boy, I would hold on to that $10 for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, not
Because
anymore.
you felt it every time it left your hand. Now
Not
when
anymore.
you swipe,
You
like,
not.
oh,
You don't feel the money.
I spent $20. Like, damn,
You don't feel the money
today,
go.
right?
You're able to spend.
And then vice versa. You ain't even got to leave your house no more.
Spending
right?
money.
You ain't even got to have gas money to go to the mall.
I mean, come on. Let's be honest. To be outside, outside is at least $100.
If you drove past suburban neighborhoods during the pandemic, all you see is like stacks of Amazon packages everywhere.
That's it. And people don't even know half the time the stuff that they ordered.
Man.
So it's like, it's not even, and to be outside alone is $100, $150 just to go outside. Right. So it's like just to go to something and come back. By that time, you start thinking of so many things.
I bring my own drinks in the club.
But we realized it because after coming back from Haiti, we were in Haiti. We didn't have no debt. We didn't have nothing. Like, weren't worried about nothing. Everything that you have, you had to buy it in cash, whether it be your car, whether it be whatever it was. So you're able to maintain those certain things because you don't have access. Right. I'm not going to nobody's Marshalls or TJ Maxx or whatever, the mall. I'm not going. There's no such thing. But you're fine. You're more than living. Like, you're more than okay. Right. You're good. You're eating. You're doing. So it's that level of that shift that has to take place in the mind.
Do you feel like it's harder to move back than to go forward? I feel like the easiest time to set up a budget is like when you come out of college, you used to being poor, blah, 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 versus like you've already hit that pinnacle and now you need to make a change. Now you're not going to the restaurants you've been used to, and now you're not going. Like, I feel like
I think it's harder because there's such a level when you shift. It's not like okay, now like there's an obvious shift, you know, like people, and they do it that way for a reason, where it's like, okay, now you're not wearing name brand, or now you're not doing this, or now you're not doing that. But at the same time, like
in high school, you was the man.
What happened? Or you wearing the same. Dang, he been wearing that same suit jacket every time. Like, dang, I done seen Ayo with that suit coat. You know, like that. And then that comes back to what we talked about with the guy that worked at Marriott. Right. How much do you care about what people are thinking about you? Because that's where really people are playing to. Like, how much are you bothered by that?
Right, exactly.
And if you have a certain level of being bothered, you always gonna be broke. Yeah. So that's where the mindset shift has to happen. If there's no shift in the way that you're thinking about the money and how you're thinking of this as a tool and how you're thinking that this is something that can move your entire family forward, generational wealth, insurance, let me buy this, let me do these things. If you're not thinking of tomorrow, you're never gonna be in a certain. I don't care how many budgets you make, and I don't care how many platforms you use, because your mind has to shift. You have to take it up a level and understand. Okay, why am I holding on to this? Is it endowment bias? Do I have bias towards this because somebody gave it to me? But in reality, I would have sold it. And even though I'm wasting so much money, we talked to somebody before. Oh, I have this business I gotta keep, but the business is a money pit. But they're keeping it because, my dad gave this, or my cousin gave this, or whoever gave this to me. Right. But in reality, if that was something else, or a way that you were able to get it, you would have never bought it. So it's also understanding that there's behaviors that come with it. And even like you mentioned, your dad is a certain type of way. And because of that,
you call him cheap. He cheap.
I ain't coming after no parents. But even that, like, right, that naturally you see those different pictures, and it's gonna develop a part of you. And so you're going to develop to be some of those things. So if you're not actively trying to be a different way, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah. If you're somebody who is broke, as soon as they get money, they're always going to have a way to try to spend it because they want to show, like, look what I got. So it's a whole different, your mind has to change. And once your mind changes, then you can have $1 million. I mean, if you can't keep $100, you're not going to keep $1 million. There's no, like, I mean, that's scripture. Like, if you're not faithful with that little piece, you're not going to be faithful with a lot. It doesn't matter how much more you have. And I feel like that's the biggest thing. We can't even budget with $100. As soon as you get the 100, you looking for, what can I, does Prada have anything that's $100? You start looking for
people try to out earn their way out of debt rather than, just hunker down and do what they need to do.
I mean, your mindset about the money, just period. Just even like some people feel like when they're paying a bill, like, it's taking my money. What you mean? Like, that's, you owe that. Yeah. You have to pay that back.
Nah, they taking money.
Like you use them lights. You used them lights that whole time. That was you using them lights. You the one that didn't want to turn them lights off nowhere in the house. Like that house. Was you.
We be sitting in the dark.
Yeah, like you use that. You use that washer. You kept putting on the dishwasher. You want to wash the dishes. Yes, that water bill is your water bill. Like you have to pay that.
With the heat on.
You have to pay that. Like, but we got this mindset. Oh man, the bills come. What you mean?
That's funny.
But it's even. I mean, I think also like in the same respect. I feel like as you move through with a concept of abundance mindset, just feeling like, more things will flow to you if you are able to manage the little part well. because naturally just other things are going to come,
Right.
and there's going to be other spots that you don't even recognize, like, oh, and I can also make money in this lane, and I can also do this, and I can also do that. So I think there's a lot to be said. And one business owner, she actually mentioned to me, she was like, one thing I would love for an advisor to do is also help me to mention to other people about my business. She was like, sometimes you have access to a lot of people that maybe I may not have access to. So as advisors, for example, we like to give gifts, to our clients during certain parts of the year or whatever it might be. And one thing that I want to be my mission is, okay, make sure that that's one of my already clients, make sure it's one of their businesses gifts, because now I'm supporting also your business in the same way that also you're supporting my business, So I think there's ways that we can all help each other kind of move the dial. And then if I hear someone, oh, they need this, I know I have a small business owner who does that. So it's kind of also being able to expand your network more and more.
Khadia, if people want to reach out to you or get in touch with you, how do they do that?
So they can Google me, Khadia Michel, but they can find me on Instagram at the Khadia Michel. And
we'll put that right here on the screen.
Yeah. And they can find me. Yeah. I mean, I'm very easy to find. What I realize is because my name,
Coach Prime.
No, but I feel like because my name is so different, like there's not many Khadias, maybe Khadijas, but Khadia Michel, once you put that, people, I'm the first one on the page. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man. Today, I think just the fact that we got to talk about your story, budgeting as a whole, which is important, can be a subject that people don't want to talk about, but just the importance of getting into it and how it can set you apart. The strategy you talked about, I love that strategy, the 50-20-30, just kind of an easy strategy. It's maybe not before everybody, but if you're not working with an advisor yet, you just want to have a good sense of where your money should be. Definitely. I think that's been great. And then, busting some myths about budgeting, right? The whys, having a why, and understanding that budgeting isn't just being cheap and spending less. It's just having a better understanding of where your money's going and
Definitely.
Putting it on paper so that you can look it in the face and be like, I'm okay with this, right? So I appreciate that so much.
Definitely.
And hopefully we get you back on season 2.
Definitely.
Talk a little deeper about it.
Absolute pleasure. Love what you guys are doing. Love how you guys are doing it. I'm excited to see, how this, not only the impact, but also just the different people that I know is going to touch and, excite and bring up some new ideas and things like that. So I'm excited.
Well, something tells me your inbox is going to be jumping too.
I mean, jump on in. I'm not mad. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Common Sense. Again, I'm your host, Ayo Idowu. If you'd like to get more content from us, please like, subscribe, and follow our page.